The Springboks play their first test of the year against Wales on the 22nd of June. But with Pollard and Marnie Leborg potentially being unavailable, who will play 10 for the Springboks? So the first question you might have is, why is Handré Pollard and Marnie Leborg potentially unavailable and almost definitely unavailable? Well, that's because this test match against Wales is on the 22nd of June, which means that it falls outside of the international break, which means that players based in the UK, France, and Ireland, their clubs don't have to let them go to do international duty. It's a whole thing with the clubs and the international teams. The clubs don't want their players getting injured, but it's also sometimes a little bit of a spiteful thing. Maybe the UK clubs don't want to give their best players back to the Springboks for when they face Wales. The second issue is that the URC final also happens on the 22nd of June. So in a perfect world, the Stormers play the Bulls in a URC final, and then Rassie cannot select from the UK, France, Ireland, the Stormers, and the Bulls. But even if the Bulls or Stormers make the semi-finals, that could also cause problems because that's only a week before this test match. So in the most probable case, Rassie won't be able to select from UK, France, and Ireland, and he also won't be able to select from the Bulls and the Stormers, and even potentially the Lions if they can somehow get into the top 8 of the URC and make it to the semi-finals. Then he's in even more of a predicament. So the reason that they'll be without Pollard is because he plays for the Leicester Tigers in the UK and he probably won't be released. Marnie Leborg and the Stormers will probably make quite a deep run in the URC, so Leborg will be out. The Bulls will probably also make quite a deep run, making it to the semis or even the final, and I don't think Johan Goosen or Chris Smith is even on the radar for Rassie Erasmus, which means that Rassie will have to pick a number 10 from the Japanese-based players whose season would have ended a couple weeks prior, or from the Lions if the Lions don't make the final 8, and finally the Sharks. Worst case scenario, the Lions make the semi-finals, and then Rassie Erasmus can only pick from the Japan-based players and the Sharks, as well as the Cheetahs, but I don't think anyone is really on the radar from the Cheetahs. So let's just say, for argument's sake, that the Lions don't make it into the semi-finals. They're currently positioned 11th in the URC. What are the options that Rassie Erasmus can look at for who can play fly-half for the Springboks on the 22nd of June against Wales? Guys, if you haven't, please make sure you hit that subscribe button. Still about 92% of you who watch this channel on a regular basis are not subscribed, and our goal is to hit 100,000 subscribers by the end of this year, and we want you to be a part of it. So who can Rassie Erasmus pick from the Japanese-based players? Well, there's not too many backline players that he can put in that number 10 role. He's got Faf de Klerk, who we've seen play 10 for the Springboks before, but I don't think that's where he belongs, and I don't think Faf is going to start in that number 10 position for the Springboks. You've obviously got Damien Delende, who will be playing inside center, so he won't be able to play 10. You've got Jesse Kriel, who had a phenomenal World Cup and has sort of taken that 13 jersey away from Lukhanyo. So I definitely think we'll see Jesse Kriel in that number 13 jersey. And then we left with Cheslin Colby. Now Cheslin is a little bit more of an interesting case because we saw in the latest Chasing the Sun episode that if need be, he would have slotted in at number 9. We see Rassie Erasmus call him in to the coach's box, and Cheslin Colby is more than happy to fill in at number 9 if needed. I also think Cheslin Colby could potentially play 10 for that game against Wales. I know it's a little bit out of the box, but his kicking game is good. He's very quick. His defense is very, very good. He has good hands. He has vision. So it would make sense for Cheslin Colby to be selected in that number 10 position. He also knows the systems. He knows how the Springboks work. He knows all the moves. So it would be sort of a once-off, maybe a bit of a better option than bringing someone in new who you have to teach all the systems. So I definitely think Cheslin Colby could be an option for Rassie Erasmus on the 22nd of June in that number 10 position. Then, as I stated, let's say the Lions don't make the playoffs for the URC. Then we're looking at a couple more options. Sanelo Nohamba and Jordan Hendrickse, who both have played 10 for the Lions this season. I do think Nohamba is currently above Jordan Hendrickse, even in that Lions side, but I definitely think in the Springbok selection, just because Nohamba brings a little bit more utility to the backline of the Springboks. He can slot in at 9, he can slot in at 10, and he's had an absolutely phenomenal season. Definitely one of the breakout players of this season, which is why he was added to the lineman camp squad. And I definitely think if Rassie wants to try a couple of things, he puts Nohamba at 10 for the Springboks, and he puts Morne van den Berg at 9, who's the Lions scrum off, and see how that combination works for the Springboks, because Morne van den Berg has also been added to the alignment camp, so they could be working on a little combination there. They're also very, very young. Well, Nohamba's about 25, Morne van den Berg is a bit younger than him, so they could potentially be the combination that takes us into the 2027 World Cup. So I do think that would be a clever play from Rassie Erasmus to sort of try out that combination, see if it works. It's a one-hit wonder. The Springboks are probably going to go there, and it's going to be very difficult to win just because of all the players that they can't select. So it's a bit of a gamble, and I would love to see Sanelo Nohamba get a shot in that number 10 jersey. Then finally, Rassie Erasmus could pick from the Sharks players. Now, the Sharks have had an absolutely dreadful season, and I think a lot has to do with Kerwin Bosch that has been playing 10 for the Sharks. Kerwin just isn't clicking this season, and they signed a man by the name of Mizuku at the beginning of the season who had a phenomenal season for the Cheetahs last year, got signed to the Sharks, but then he never really played for the Sharks. He wasn't on the bench, he wasn't on the team sheet, and the Sharks, as we know, their season took a massive dip, and finally he got his opportunity to play 10. They dropped Kerwin Bosch. Mizuku stepped in at number 10 and has started to turn the season around for the Sharks. I think they've won 3 or 4 in a row now. Mizuku's won a couple of Man of the Match awards. He's 27. He'll definitely be in his prime when the 2027 World Cup comes around. So I definitely don't think it's a bad shout to even start Mizuku in that number 10 jersey against Wales on the 22nd of June. So what is the likeliness of each of these situations? Look, I think Cheslin Colby at 10 is probably the least likely of the 3. I would put Mizuku in that number 2 spot, and I definitely think we might see Nohamba in that number 10 position for the Springboks on the 22nd of June against Wales. As always, let me know what you guys think down in the comments. If you haven't hit that subscribe button, leave this video a like, and I'll see you guys tomorrow. Take it easy. Peace.